Studio tour, studio tour. This is when the studio goes on tour. That's happening tomorrow. Today, I'm showing you the studio. So what's happening is studio tour, studio tour. This, shout out Alex Ball. Studio tour, studio tour. Today is the day the studio goes on tour. Not the day that we do a tour of the studio, but the day that the studio goes on tour. Today, guys, we're going to Saudi Arabia. And I'm going to take you along. This is my studio. I was able to carve out this space basically over the last couple of years. It took me a while to get it going because I didn't have the room to do anything. Like, you know, you have kids, you have work, you have life, and so you don't really have time to build out your studio. And then finally I got a little bit of more of room. I got my space figured out a little bit, and as a result I've been able to slowly develop this area here as my recording studio, and I'm super pumped about it, and I'm glad to share it with you guys today. I've been doing this for about 25-30 years, give or take, and there was a big window where I couldn't do anything because basically I packaged up all my gear, put it in storage, and now it's basically been slowly coming out, and I've developed and bought more gear over the years, so this is kind of like the state of the studio as of now. There's a bunch of cool stuff in here. Like, I'm super nerdy. You'll see there's like, you can geek out hard in this place because it's 30 years of getting into electronic music and being into it. So there's stuff from all times, all sorts of times ago. I mean, like, check this thing out. This is the Daft Punk IPA from when they split up. Fun kind of studio stuff that over the years you pick up. So anyway, today I'm going to take you on a studio tour. Not when the studio goes on tour, tour of the studio. Let's see what we got going on here. There's a bunch of cool stuff, and let me know in the comments if any of this stuff is cool for you guys too, or if you guys have this stuff, or if you're into it or whatever. Studio tour. First things first, the Odyssey. This thing is a mega beast. It's super analog and super sick. You guys, if you know anything about this, you'll know that it's an amazing piece of gear, and yeah, it's a Behringer, but you know what's cool? It's a brand new ARP Odyssey that cost me $300, so love it. More Behringer stuff. This is my little secret weapon here, because why? If you don't know how to play piano, I have it all mapped out right there, and yes, I'm a complete nerd, okay? I am. I'm a nerd. I like to learn things my way because I figure, like, if I'm doing things like everyone else is doing them, then I'm gonna get a result like everyone else. Yeah, I'm a nerd. So you guys know this piece of gear. This is just a Behringer swing. It's basically like my main MIDI keyboard. There's some funny stuff I picked up over the years, like weird oscillators that are from when you used to get your ears tested if you were like a little kid. Studio tour, we're in Saudi Arabia doing a tour. So you guys, I bet it's probably time that I explain to you a little bit what's going on. So I have a fitness studio in Rome, and it's doing well, and I'm expanding out to Saudi Arabia. So I'm looking for locations, and that's why we're on a studio tour, right? You guys know me from my recording studio, but I actually have a fitness studio. That's my main job. So studio tour, guys, let's check it out. Yo guys, if you're wondering who my buddies are in the video, that's Ihab and Majed.
They're my homies. Yep, they're helping me out. It's pretty cool. And I should have brought some sunglasses. Jesus Christ, it's December.
Then this is probably my best piece of gear, the Solar 42. It's this crazy piece of gear. I'll just open it up a little bit so you guys can kind of see what's happening, but super cool piece of gear. Yeah, it's all connected together. So like even like, you know, this little Live-In XFM is like basically a kind of simple piece of gear, but you know, if you run it through some effects, it can be pretty cool. Everything is running through the hologram, and I'll show you how I have that set up here in a second, which is pretty cool too. Also, the Cobalt is being fed MIDI, okay? And this is yeah, the Cobalt is like a pretty crazy piece of gear because it's got like really crazy digital oscillators. Basically what it is, it's like a super waveform synth in the sense of like what you can do is that the algorithms that are in the different wave shapes, you can actually play with the algorithms as the sound is playing. So by manipulating them, you can get some really cool sonic textures because basically it's like instead of thinking about most of the times when you're going to go to a synth, you'll go to like a cutoff or a release or something like that. This is kind of getting you into like wave shaping while you're performing. It's super cool.
So guys, I'm checking out all these places, but it's just for fun, you know, like I'm taking you along for the ride so you guys can be on my studio tour with me. But yeah, this is cool. Like I also wanted to give you guys a little bit of a vision into places you might not have seen before because, I don't know, super cool, I think, actually. So yeah, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, studio tour.
What else do we have here? Oh yeah, the Tascam Model 12. This is kind of the heart of the studio in a sense because it's the audio interface. Everything runs through it. Remember how I told you guys I have the microcosm set up? I have the microcosm set up basically as an auxiliary. So let me give you guys an example of how the effects are set up. Basically, if I have this guy, the microcosm, acting as a master effects unit, and it's running through aux1. So basically, if I have a signal, like let's say the Cobalt, and I turn on the hologram, turn up aux, so you can see it's a pretty powerful setup because basically all this stuff is running through the mixer. So again, basically if I have the effects that are connected to everything. So if I turn that on, okay, it's on some random effect right now, but I can have this little loop thing going here, right? I'm triggering it real quick so you guys can hear. I can add the microcosm on top of that. So you can see it's a super powerful setup because basically like in 2 seconds you can have like a wall of sound. And I really like ambient music. I really like drone music. All this stuff, the selection of gear that I have is kind of based on that because that's the kind of stuff I'm looking to make. But all this stuff is pretty cool. Studio tour, studio tour. So this part of the studio is definitely the part of the studio that's more like the getting stuff done part. MPC super cool. This thing is super cool. This is the Supernova from Novation. I've had this for a long time. I have a video on it. It has some crazy sounds on it. Let me see if I can get one of those set up real quick. I mean, it's so powerful, it gets like super freaky right away, basically. So all this stuff needs to be harnessed, and that's kind of cool too. I like that it's like basically unlimited power and that you just have to be kind of careful with it. Like my disco ball? Pretty cool, huh?
Just to give you more of a feeling, this is kind of like the reality. It's like all these boulevards, these big boulevards, palm trees and everything. And then like commercial properties, like these kind of like, you know, we just went to like California Burger or whatever. And then like kind of crazy, sometimes like that's someone's house, right? As is that. Like, so it's a crazy mix, like these humongous American cars, and it's all strip malls. Like Riyadh, this is what I was gonna tell you, like it's all like this. It's humongous like strip mall, the whole city is like this, okay? So basically it's a car city because it's so hot, and you just go to where you want to go. And it's like, yeah, beautiful palm trees and everything like that. But this is the vibe.
Probably one of the most important pieces of equipment. Sony A6700. It's a nice cam. Sigma lens on it. It's a nice little setup. It works really well, I think. Got some newer lights going on in here. These newer lights are totally fine and not that expensive. Gear. Okay. MPC, this is my newest piece of gear. I don't really have a super deep knowledge of it yet, but I'm getting to know it. I'm pumped on it. It's super cool. Yamahas, these are the classic, you know, reference monitors. If most of the time you want a pretty flat, if you want a pretty flat response, these are going to be the ones you're looking for. For me, these are fine. Little monitor here, 24 inches. I have it disconnected now, like I said before. Sometimes my studio, I'm working on getting all the connections always working, but it's not the easiest to always have everything connected all the time. Anyway, little other things, you know, DVD player. These are actually, I gotta say, these ProSonus speakers are kind of cool in a way, especially if you have them set up as a desktop speaker to reference with, because they are fairly flat as well and pretty cool. I have some bits and bobs here that I picked up over the years, old MIDI interfaces that are still good. There's a cool EQ that I have that's very accurate and not musical at all. Old interfaces that I kind of just have around. And then that BBE Sonic Maximizer thing, that was kind of cool. It does add character to the sound. It's kind of like a sort of exciter, like an Aphex exciter, but it's noisy. That's why I don't really like to use it a whole lot. Plus I got my trusty 303. Of all my synthesizers, can I say, I know this sounds crazy, but like I have the most fun playing this. And I think that's because this is the most nostalgic of it all, you know? Studio tour, checking out a place like a studio. What do you guys think? This a good one? Maybe something like this? Studio tour. As I keep taking you along on my studio tour, I have stuff here that is the whole vinyl world, you know? This is really cool stuff as well. It's all connected. It's just like to connect it, I have it going in through here, which is basically a old M audio vinyl, like, you know, phono to digital converter. This is pretty good. I have a video on my channel about that as well. And it's running into, basically, I can take it, I have cords that I can connect it with any second. So I'm getting my vinyl into the computer like that, or I'm playing it and I'm just listening to it. With regards to vinyl, I mean, I've been doing this for, like I said, a long time. So, I mean, this album, I don't know if you guys know some of this stuff. Like, when I pull this stuff out in the comments, if you guys know what I'm pulling out, you got to give it a thumbs up, because some of this stuff is like what made electronic music super, super cool. Like, for real, guys. Some of the old school stuff, okay? Cool stuff that I thought was just cool. Sometimes I was into circuit bending for a while, and I would like to get stuff for the knobs. That was cool. All, you know, old. I do use some of this stuff too. Like this controller, I still use it actually quite a lot. These are really cool records. This is all like this whole German techno stuff. There's some really cool stuff in here. Also a lot of French and stuff like that. Some American stuff as well. Yeah, this is all kind of minimal stuff like that. DJT, Mandy, cool, cool, cool. New Order, these kind of things are super cool. I got records from like the 70s that are like super beginning electronic music records. I mean, also, if you guys been around for long enough, people who you might have remembered in the scene, you know, Plastic Man, Martin Lands, whatever that guy's name is. Yeah, and then like ton of stuff, because like, do you guys remember D-Light? D-Light, super, super cool. Future Sounds of London, amazing. Danny Tenaglia, Like a Goat, you know. Old school Bob Sinclair before he was super popular. What else? There's so much stuff in here. I mean, it's really cool. Kalkbrenner, Aphex, randomly Stevie Wonder. Yeah, and that goes on and on and on. And all these records are sick records. In fact, if you guys have like an idea, I'm trying to figure out in my YouTube channel how to develop it a little bit more. And I have all these records that I want to share with you guys, but I kind of don't know how to, because obviously for copyright strikes and stuff like that. But I mean, I'd love for you guys to hear some of this stuff. So in the comments, if any of you guys have any ideas of like how I can do that, or if you have any ideas, let me know.
Hey guys, I'm walking around Kobar and I'm going around some of the back streets because I'm checking out some spots that might be a little bit off the beaten path. If you're able to see in the distance those skyscrapers, those are on the waterfront, and that's all turning into this humongous development. So even just a couple rows back, you know, could be interesting.
I did a video about future music and how it went out of, it's not being sold anymore, computer music. These are some of my old CDs I still have left over. These are all 45s. These I have some really cool, I mean, I even have 45s from like record companies that were fairly still new, you know. This is cool, I'll keep that out like that. And old stuff like, you know, old computers that have shat the bed. Shout out Ghostly Records. And yeah, just records. And down here too, more records. This is all classical music. So if you're into stuff like that, this is actually pretty helpful, I think, if you're into electronic music too, because it gives you pretty great ideas. More stuff, but this is more like random, you know, like mariachi band, or like Italian Roman songs, or George Benson, stuff like that. I've sampled some of that stuff in one of my videos, which is kind of fun too, to make a rhythm roulette. Definitely check that out. You know, stuff like also your studio chair is important, but if you go online, sometimes some of these secondhand places have amazing stuff as it squeaks. What else? Cool stuff like I bought this for my son a little while ago. I'll make a video with this. This is fun. It's like a cool handheld synthesizer thing. Bits and bobs, old little pieces of gear that get, you know, computer and outboard connected. You know, even stuff like the Behringer. This is actually a pretty good piece of gear, honestly. This is a 1979 Takamine. It's a pretty nice piece of, it's a pretty nice guitar. But this is kind of like more gear that, you know, think some channels are more like guitar focused or whatever. I'm like a synth nerd, basically. It's a beautiful guitar though, and I've used it quite a lot, and I think it's awesome to have acoustic instruments in with your stuff too, but yeah, I don't know. I get more gear, lust, and fun, passion out of like this stuff here. I have so much random gear that I don't even know, like, if you guys really want to see it all, because studio tour, but like, you know, maybe you guys are bored or whatever, but like, anyway. This is a pretty cool mic. You can pick these mics up fairly cheap. This is a really nice, basically it's a condenser microphone. It's very nice, actually. It sounds really good. And this is like 20 years old, 15 something years old. I've had it for a long ass time. Still sounds great. And it really, all this stuff, it's like a couple $100, but sometimes if you find like a really nice thing and you just take care of it in a way, it lasts, you know. That's why pro audio kind of keeps its value. Basically, it's like there's about 1,000 square meters there, maybe a little bit less, 800. Up there, there's about 185. There's this huge one that's like about 400 or 500, and this is another 1,000. Most of this is all vacant, so it's just a question of figuring out like where, what exactly. So the mic that I just showed you runs through this preamp, and it's a 2 preamp. Again, if you guys have gotten into a Behringer gear only recently because of Behringer Bros or whatever, you can probably find gear like this that is super useful for peanuts. Basically, all this stuff has been democratized in a way, you know? Like, used to be super hard to get a studio going or to buy gear or whatever, but over the years, whether it's been companies like Behringer, whether it's been maybe me getting a little bit older, being able to afford some things, or maybe like saving up and selling gear to buy other gear like I did with the Solar, which I sold like a Jupiter 4 that I had to kind of go that way. So a lot of it is kind of the expansion, the fun, little fun stuff like old headphones, old gear that like was what I started with, but now I don't use anymore. This is a pretty cool violet ribbon microphone that I have in there. Cowbell, can't have enough cowbell. Duran Duran, can't have enough Duran Duran. Little stuff, you know, like old helmets from the 80s that are kind of cool or whatever. African frogs, Mozart, hip hop. That thing in the corner is the first piece of art I ever did. That's kind of fun. And then little things, you know, like microphones from supermarkets that actually still work. Those are cool. Little controllers, things like that. Chaos pad, don't really use that anymore. Some crystals for some hippie shit. Old radio, fun stuff. For me, the studio is all about vibe. And sometimes there's pieces of gear that I don't use at all, but what it does, it just makes me feel like I'm in a comfortable, cozy creative space. It just vibes, you know? Like some of the stuff that I have up there that's like old pieces of gear, like maybe an old recorder that like I don't use anymore, an old microphone from a supermarket. When you walk into a place like this, it just gives you feeling, you know? And the feeling is kind of what gets the music going, because the music is all about feeling too. You know, because part of it too, guys, from a studio, you know, from a perspective of like creativity is there's kind of like, maybe some of you have an endless creativity. I feel like I have a pretty good amount of creativity, but like it's about putting yourself in the place to make yourself creative too, you know? And that's super important. This is kind of like a deeper dive, but I think as more and more we're going to get into like an existential crisis of AI taking people's jobs and like what is the purpose of life and what are you going to do with your life and all this stuff. I think having a passion like this is one of the best things you can do. So the reason why I say that is because I've been able to develop this over the course of like 30 years, and I still am geeked out about it. Like I still love doing it, and I love sharing it with you guys. So in the comments, let me know if any of this stuff was fun or cool for you. And yeah, maybe take this as an inspiration in the sense of like, look, I'm 45 years old. Does it make sense to be a musician at 45 years old? No. Do I have a ton of fun doing it? Yeah. And am I super pumped about it all the time? Sometimes, but you know, I've worked hard to get to a place where I have like a creative studio that I can go to, and if I feel the need to, I can just get my emotions and my artistic vibes out, and I think that's super cool. Thank you guys for checking it out. Shout outs to everybody. I don't know who, but to you, thank you. And looking forward to seeing you soon. Peace.